Live. You're listening to Live with Men, the podcast.
This is Men, the podcast. Thank you kwa kuchagua kutusikiliza muda huu. It's another day, another beautiful session. It's a nice Saturday here where we're recording. It's, we're here. Ashukuru Mungu, we made it, you know.
We made it through the week.
We made it through the week, you know. We should celebrate. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Life is a gift.
Life is a gift, yeah. Life is a gift. We should appreciate it more.
Yeah.
And it's pointless kutumia muda mwingi sana kulalamika. I always say it's quote from T.I. He said,
the hip hop had it.
The hip hop had it. Yeah. So T.I. said, stop focusing on what you don't have and start appreciating what you have. I was like, that's a good mantra to live by.
Yeah,
it's a very good mantra to live by. And I think a lot of us, we have a lot, but we mostly tend to focus on what we do not have. Kwa sababu tunadhani inaweza ikatupa fulfillment zaidi.
But then what happens is that what we don't have multiplies. Now we see a lot more of what we don't have. So when we focus on what we do have, then what we have multiplies.
Yeah. True, very true. So be thankful for whatever it is. For whatever it is that you're going through. And if you feel like, if I quote Princely Glorious on one of the episodes, he actually said, you should learn to love the mess that you're in.
Yeah.
That's the only one who's okatoka. Love the mess that you're in, and then mambo yako yanaweza kaenda.
Kweli. And adopt the mindset of everything that's happening is happening for me. So how do I use the distress? How do I use it? Because it's happening for me.
Yeah.
You know, so how do I make it benefit me?
Yeah. Wow, very philosophical. 2 minutes in. This is Men the podcast. At Men the podcast on Twitter, at Men the podcast on Instagram, on Facebook as well. You know, what we do, we discuss everything mental health, but like the title of the podcast, Men. Focus yetu ipo kwa wanaume zaidi. Nadia is here, our own resident psychologist in at Mind Matters TZ on Instagram, at Mind Matters TZ on Twitter. There's a link kwenye bio. You go to the website. Unaweza kupata details zaidi za namna gani unaweza ukawasiliana naye if you feel like you want to get it to that level. Yashuke.
Yes, brother.
My man, we're back.
Back again.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. This is the first time we've had the same guest of back-to-back episodes. Because ya vitu ambavyo tuliviacha mezani, we are like, come on, we should just tukutane tena ili tuendelee ku unpack na ku channel discussions na kujaribu kwenda ndani zaidi kwenye maongezi ambayo tulianzisha kwenye the last episode. Kama hujasikiliza the last episode, don't worry, it's out there. All you gotta do is find it on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Boomplay, Audiomack, thank you.
I'm plugging the streaming service I use.
My man. So go check it out. We're all over. Go check it out, and then after that, nadhani it will be even more interesting for you. Ukisikiliza conversation, it's more like a follow-up to the conversation that we started last time. The last time how we started, and then how it got in the middle was very interesting for me. In the sense that we got to an agreement kwamba we have to address the roots. Like the only way tunaweza tukaendelea mbele, like we have to address the roots of our beliefs, our behavior. Yani ilianzia wapi? Yani lazima tukifika pale ndio tunaweza tukaendelea mbele. So kulikuwa kuna mifano mingi sana ya vitu gani ambavyo watu tunafanya either subconsciously or I don't know what's the word, subconsciously or unconsciously. I don't know which is
unconsciously both we can use.
Ambavyo tunafanya bila kufikiria.
Some of us we are semi-aware but we're not aware. So it's in the subconscious. It's closer to our reach.
Yeah.
Lakini the unconscious is something that we don't yet have access to. It's just happening. And we're not even aware that we're doing things.
And I think that's where we are, most of us, right?
That we're just moving, we're just being directed by our inner worlds, and it's bypassing our conscious mind, that we're not, just as I breathe, I'm not consciously choosing to be breathing in and out. This is something I've already automated. I have to be consciously mindful about it all the time.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, tulianzia hapo tukafikia hapo. So Yashuke, we are back again, and this time we want to take it forward and we want to take a little bit further. We say among the things that tutakavyoongelea tukazungumzia relationship dynamics, male and female, and then even say kwamba tutazungumzia even issue sexual energy between these two people, between men and women, and how kwa namna moja au nyingine inaweza pia kuwa cause ya mental health challenges ambazo watu tunakutana nazo na watu tunadili nazo, na katika context tunazungumzia wanaume zaidi. So if we start off from like from the get go, why do you think it's important to address that?
Well, the last discussion we had was focused from the start on this idea of the relationship, but we couldn't talk about the relationships that we have with others before we could talk about the relationship that you have with yourself. And that requires a lot of digging, a lot of self-work, and a number of the things we discussed. So in that process of self-work, of learning and unlearning behavior patterns, and this idea of rebirth, of reclaiming that true, authentic part of yourself, requires an in-depth understanding of, maybe not in-depth, but to a conscious understanding of what's happening on a much deeper level when it comes to your energy. Now, energy, labda kabla tujaendelea, this is a part where now I get to also interview you guys.
that is the value.
Labda kila mmoja aseme kwa sehemu yake what in the context, yani ukisikia ni mtu akisema, for example, oh, maybe I don't like that person's energy, or my energy is not right. Like, for each one of you, what that means.
So if I try to dumb it down kabisa, I think it relates na katika current context watu wanavyoitumia. I think it relates with the vibe. Kwa watu if I'm being kwamba when I say I don't feel that energy, or I don't like the energy, or that person is giving me some type of energy, I think it relates more to vibe and how I feel about that particular person. Because, and this is where wakati naongea nikafikiria zaidi, kwa sababu sometimes it's more about us and not about the other person, right? Meaning, I might be feeling like you're giving me off, and you're like offish, and Jack, I'm not feeling it. But it could be because of mimi na nilipotoka na stress zangu kichwani na nini. It's just that we unaendelea na mambo yako. Of course, there are some time where you can actually tell if a person is a little bit, you know, you can tell. So for me, I think it has more to do with the vibe and how you actually relate to the feeling that you get when you are around that person. Like, am I comfortable? Am I not comfortable? Do I feel welcomed here? Or do I feel like nahitajika or sihitajika? You know, in a nutshell, that's how I put it.
Miss Nadia.
Yeah, as you were asking, and as Michael was speaking, I'm like, oh my God, I've never actually conceptualized what exactly for me it means when I speak about, one's energy. But I think it's a combination of a lot of different things, like what Michael says, like how other people make us feel, and perhaps the other person, the energy that they bring from what their experiences, their reactions. But also what we're bringing in and how those two interact. But when I speak of my energy is low, it's more around, I think, my internal world. Like, where am I at that moment? Mostly, I like the fact that Michael used the word feeling. I think it centers around feeling, that gut feeling for me is energy. Especially when I'm with other people, how my gut feels when I'm around them. Tells me something about their energy in relation to me. Because at the end of the day, how I interpret something or someone else's energy is influenced by my own worldview and how the other person same, right? So for me, that's what energy is. It's like a marrying of my personal energy, my gut feeling, my experiences, my internal world, and how my internal world interprets someone else and their actions and their movements, their expressions.
So you said that there's something you said how your internal world essentially communicates with the outside and the outside coming in. So this is and use the word vibe as well, right? And so what's really happening, there's communication at all times. That means when we're around each other, as we move through the world, there's communication that's happening in silence. So we're so used to use words. Our words most of the time communicate the things we want to put upward. But energy tends to communicate even the things we choose not to say. So there's two parts to this. So there's one part that's where energy is more of a performance factor, and then there's another part that's more of a security factor. Ni kama system yako ya alarm au ni system yako the word awareness to borrow from your dictionary, but so there's those two elements of how energy works, where if you enter a room, if you meet somebody for the first time, as much as you might be communicating using words, there is communication, a transfer of data that's happening in silence. And I think that's something we take for granted, and we've taken for granted for a long time because we've been so far removed from that type of communication, and how in the earliest times. Today we're in these bodies with these avatars. We're in avatar, and there've been different designs of the avatar over the years, generations and millennia, and with each, as the evolution has happened over time, the use of language and the use of words has grown significantly. Make kwa kuna muda watu kulikuwa na madaftari, there was no, and then there was a time where we would only write on walls or papyrus, and then there was a time where writing was not there, and you have this the oral tradition of passing on. But if you keep going farther and further back, there was a time where we had the avatar structure that didn't even talk. Communication was done in silence, through energy, through things like telepathy, through frequency and vibration, and now we're so far removed from that, what's the most organic part of ourselves, and we run to the words, because yani ndo tunaongea, tunaongea, but so much more happens in that silence, and it's really it's what we rely on the most, more than even the words we use. But we don't give that part as much credit because sababu ni squeeze ni maneno. So when it comes to hili swala la energy, especially kwenye mtu kujijua na kujitambua. So I'm going to talk about this in two parts. So from the self aspect of wewe kama wewe na energy yako, what it means, and then on the other part of how our energies interact with each other. So first, as an individual, and this is where I'll say the modern war that's going on today is really an energy war, but it's an energy of the spirit. It's not the atomic energy. It's not I'm not worried about what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, not in the sense that I'm not humanitarian now, sijali yani watu kwamba wanapitia, but I'm not worried in terms of the effect it could have on humanity when you think of world wars and things like that. Yani kwa sababu the real war now, it's shifted to a totally different space, and this is why you have all these gender issues coming into play. Yani, there's energy wars going on ya ndani and within these bodies that we have, and it's this power play now on these positions of these energies and what is and what isn't. Kwa hiyo sasa hivi nilikuwa naongelea kuhusu the individual, and we each have this energy print. Kabla uja identify with your physical form kama mwanaume au kama mwanamke, there is a form as well that's a subset within the physical form that's more of a nucleus of the identity. Yani kama kikombe kinachojazwa kabla akijaweka kwenye hili kabati, that's your physical body. And within that exists an energy field at all, and that energy field is the spectrum within which each and every one of us are communicating on the masculine aspect and on the feminine aspect. Now, when we talk about energy, it's and this is the thing as well. There is your gender. There's a difference between your gender identification, and then there's a difference between the identity of your energy spectrum. Because we all move along the energy spectrum. We all have feminine and masculine aspects. And this is going back to what we're talking about in terms of attachment styles and that spectrum where you have to have that balance in the secure space. Same thing with your energy spectrum. You have to have that balance on the center of those two aspects of feminine and masculine. And then depending on the action that is required within the physical form, you move along that spectrum. You seem to be deep into something. Maybe
as you're talking, moja najaribu kufikiria kazi yangu ni to really dumb these things down katika context ambayo tutaielewa vizuri kabisa. Hiyo ndio kazi yangu. So now as you were talking najaribu kufikiria moja the practicality of it. As by the way, I agree with what you say, and I think most of the time we don't really take time to think things through, at least to that level, right? And this is why we're having this conversation, because tunajaribu kutoa majibu ya vitu ambavyo maybe hatuvifahamu au vitu ambavyo vinatokea tunajiuliza why certain things happen, you know, simply because maybe hatuna your understanding. So as you're talking, wakati tunaongea nilikuwa najaribu kuwaza why kwa nini hatuchukui muda wa kufikiria hivyo?
Sio kwamba hatuchukui muda. Ni kwamba, you know, once you're born into this realm, once you come into this world, there's already a system, there's already a structure within which we all then operate, right? Now, there was a time when this type of discussion, all the way back to ancient Egypt or Kemet or the early Hindu civilizations, where this was the center of how they built their societies. They got to the root of the understanding of energy, and then they built from that. And that's why vibration, frequency, sound waves, this is the knowledge that built pyramids, an understanding of energy and frequency and how it works. So it's 2023 and we're still trying to scratch our heads on the pyramids and how they were built. Yet hivi vitu vilijengwa na watu wenye mili kama mimi na wewe.
So do you think, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Now that you said it,
yeah.
I think one of the challenge generation yetu iliyo nayo sasa hivi ni kudhania sisi tunajua kuliko watu tutangulia.
That's the problem.
Yani hiyo kabisa, yani thinking yetu nahisi kwamba ni sisi tungekuwepo kipindi kile tungefanya zaidi walivyofanya wao. Tunasema kwamba tunasema kila kitu na era yake, yani kila kitu na muda wake na nini na vitu kama hivyo moja. So because of that we tend not to appreciate more yaliyofanyika nyuma, and we tend to complain more about mbona hiki kifanyika, mbona kufanya hivi, and stuff like that. Hiyo moja. Pili, in the sense of I also think kwamba vivyo tunapenda simple answers, right? Because like Nadia said, when we simple answers zina avoid the whole concept of doing the work na kujaribu kufikiria sana na kusoma na kuresearch na kujua wewe una fit in kwenye mambo kama kwa, because tunapenda simple answers, then we don't go seek for information, right? And I like what you said, because for me how I'm looking at it ni kwamba if you have that understanding, then tunaweza tukarudi nyuma kwamba probably there's no such thing as bad energy then, in the sense that it is just a person experiences zake mda huo na isha anayopitia. Sema wewe unataka kugeuza, you make it about you, esenaje sema nasema there's bad energy here, but it could be maybe it's bad for you, probably it's subjective. It could be it's bad for you, but for the other person it's more about what they're going through at that particular moment. Am I making sense?
Yeah. However, I wouldn't say bad energy. I think more of the word. The thing is, if you're in a centered space, right? And kama mzani, alafu kitu kikaja kikawekwa na uzito on one side, like the shift is going to happen. So kama, and this is this principle of balance. If you're balanced within yourself, within your energy, if something comes from the outside that isn't balanced or that's emitting information, kwa sababu energy at the end of the day still is also information being directed at you. Domana unaweza ukawa in the same room as na mtu mwingine hasemi chochote, but there's something within you that feels like, yo, this person is anaonekana anipendi, ana issue na mimi, and it's being making you uncomfortable, and it's being communicated in total silence, you know? And literally there can be a war going on, mtu kaka kule kaka huku, and it's just energy. So going back to the point with regard to, sorry, there's something I wanted to cover. You said two things. What was the first thing you mentioned?
Yeah, well, I said one, we think we know better.
Oh, yes, hapo.
Yeah, that was my first point, yeah.
Kwa hiyo, yani hapa tulipofikia ni kwamba there's something me and my cousin say kwamba hapa tulipofikia inabidi twende mbele kwa kurudi nyuma. You know? That's where we've gotten to, where, and this, I feel like this is going to be the root show now, because hapo dunia tulipofikia sasa mzizi unaanza kukumbukwa, because we've moved, now we've wanted to progress, tunapojua kwamba mambo yanafanyika, and now we are in this world where we're running into AI and all this cultural blow up, and we're like, what do we do? What? Sasa wale tunasema ni wahenga, but there needs to be that balance between how we move forward and the structure of the foundation. You can never lose that part of ourselves. Now, I was talking about how these earlier civilizations really built on the understanding of energy. So, for example, let's go down to just the feminine and the masculine to when it comes to the individual. Ukiangalia, as people get older, we're talking about mask and masking ourselves. We mask our energy prints, our authentic selves. That comes with an energy print within yourself. Kwa hiyo kwa mfano nitasema, when you're in primary school, there's this, kuna hii kitu watu wanasema huyu tomboy. What tomboy ni nini? Ukisikia wanasema tomboy, what does that mean?
In a simple manner, na tulivyokuwa tunasoma shit, it means it's a girl ambaye anajiweka kama a boy. Whether with the dress code, anavyotembea, anavyobehave na nini, tulikuwa tuna that's what we meant.
Yeah. So we have that part of that. However, kitu kingine ni kwamba kama nilivyosema, everything has balance in existence. Where is the balance to the tomboy when we were in primary school? What's the opposite of the tomboy? Yupo, sio kwamba hayupo, yupo, but you only always hear about the tomboy. But there's a counterbalance of the tomboy in the male form. Now, ukiangalia hicho kitu ni kwamba on one side you have a young woman who's more in her masculine energy. You know, on this energy spectrum that we are speaking of, she's more in her masculine energy. And it has nothing to do with her sexual preference in terms of kulala na mwanaume au kulala. No. We're talking about the spectrum. Unaona. Same thing with the young boy who's more feminine in his energy and how he expresses that energy. The thing is, the thing is, kuna utofauti mkubwa. Sio mkubwa, but kuna utofauti in the way in those earlier years, the openness that the young woman has in self-expression compared to the young man. We men learn to mask their emotional and energetic space much earlier, and that's because of how society pushes against that. Whereas with the woman, you'll see. Sasa kikubwa zaidi, I always say, people, where do the tomboys go? It's not like they stop being. It's not that they stop. It's not that they're not in their masculine energy as heavily as they grow older, but then they pick up on that masking trait now, where kwa sababu you're getting older, unabidi uone, and this comes from around, unabidi uonekane kama mwanamke, unabidi unani hivi, and obviously there are other factors as you hit puberty and your body takes shape and other things happen, and mtu anavaa makeup and she looks a certain way or she moves a certain way, but fewer as time goes on, the tomboy disappears. But in the physical sense, she does. But on the energetic spectrum, she's there. And it's the same thing with the male.
Does it have, or like, what's the impact of doing that?
Of doing what? Masking
your energy and...
Because it creates it as because this is the thing.
And I'm really thinking the context of wanaume.
Yes.
What's the
Kwa mwanaume ni kwamba you have to be very, very aware of where your energy leans the most and whether your energy is centered. Because when it comes to the partner you choose and the partner you attract, just like how we're talking about the attachment styles, you will seek somebody that balances that aspect of yourself. Kwa hiyo on the outward, unajua kuna hilo mwanaume ni mwanaume, inabidi uwe hivi na hivi, but this is the energy doesn't lie. So even when you're being attracted, so I'll put it this way, there are a lot of women who have a masculine energy print. They're more in the masculine energy print, and they have a partner who's more a male partner. Yani ni mwanaume, yani like proper, but he's more heavily aspected in his feminine, the expression of his feminine energy.
What happens when masculine energy meets another masculine energy? And in this sense, kama mwanamke ambaye in terms of balance, ame lean more upande wa energy masculine.
Yeah.
Akakutana na mwanaume ambaye na energy yake masculine is very out on the show. What happened?
They're rarely compatible. Yani ukichunguza kiundani, they're rarely compatible. And this is the thing, we come to conclusions and assumptions by how we see ourselves physically. Lakini watu wakifunga ndoa, wanafunga ndoa most of them on an energetic level. Wewe unamwona kwamba huyu mwanamke kasimama huku, mwanaume kasimama huku. lakini either the female is heavily aspected in the masculine and energy, and the guy is heavily aspected in the feminine, and this comes down to certain behavioral patterns that come with that. Kwa hiyo hicho kitu ni muhimu sana kukielewa kwa undani. Yani ni muhimu sana kukielewa kwa undani.
So this is what I want to ask you, Nadia. As a man seeking for a partner, right? As a man, you're seeking out for a partner na vitu kama hivyo. How do you get to the point of, I don't know if of addressing this, and how do you even address it? Because I feel like this is more, I don't know, kama kuna maneno ambayo yanaweza akalete, like you cannot, I don't think I'm gonna marry because I don't feel the energy is, you know what I mean? It's like you could say it if you're being true to yourself. Na unaona kama huko mbele itakuwa bomu. But how do you explain? Na nadhani pia katika tukirudi tena katika context yetu ya Tanzania tulipolelewa na vitu kama hivyo, tuna mtindo sana wa kusema tutasolve hili tukifika mbele. Hili sio tatizo kubwa sana. Una complicate matter. Unachagua sana. We tunaweka sababu nyingi sana ya mambo why things are not working out, lakini deep down ikichunguza wakati tunaongea ni deep down it comes to that, right?
Yeah.
Deep down it comes to it, it's part of the reason. So how do you actually have this conversation, whether it's with a partner, or how do you even explain this?
Well, the first needs to be yani ule uelewa kwamba mimi najua my energy is on this side, and I'll go back to something you said is where men are disadvantaged is the fact that women, or as young girls, when they're see, I was a tomboy. All the sports I did, my father always wanted a son.
Where do they go?
Yeah. So, I really wanted to be the son. So all the sports, I was there. I dress up. You'd think I was a boy, and the physique that I had, it was it worked. But uzuri, when it comes to the female, how they're socialized, is that it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's actually celebrated.
Yeah.
People allow you to express that, okay, right now you're in your masculine energy, and it's okay to do that. But for young boys, it's reprimanded, it's shut off, it's shunned away. And so you're not taught to just embrace and accept that this is where I am right now, because that helps you to also understand that energy. And once you understand it, you know what to do with it. Because I got to an age where I decided, like, okay, I want to explore this side of the fence, And I started exploring, and I got into modeling and whatnot to explore my feminine side.
Exactly.
It was, again, a conscious decision. Why? Because my expression was accepted. It was accepted that, okay, you like the sports, you like to do more of the masculine activities, whereas other girls or my sisters, they were more into the feminine stuff, but my parents were totally okay with it. And the community, the people around me also didn't see it was something that was celebrated, So from an early age, the young girl learns that it is okay to embrace this side and to understand it and utilize it when I need it. And then, as you said, puberty hits, you get to a certain age, and now society is like, okay, Nadia. So if you don't wake up, they'll wake you up like, okay, now we've enjoyed this part enough. Now you need to also start being feminine, okay? And so now you're socialized and taught to also understand and embrace that feminine side. It's so much easier to find that balance once you have an understanding of both. So for the young boy who has been told this is not okay, they themselves are being taught that that's not okay, don't even entertain it. Society is not entertaining it. We're just kind of shoving it under the bed, not dealt with. It doesn't, and then we mask it. When we mask it, we don't mask it with a balanced energy. We go to the complete extreme. So coming to find that balance is hard because, you don't understand that other side. How are you going to balance? You cannot balance something, because balancing means bringing both sides and saying, okay, both of you are important, and so this is where you end and this starts and that ends. And that's where we sit. So when it comes to relationships, you might find one partner perhaps is understanding of their different energies and has found that balance, great, but they still cannot help the other partner because it's his internal work to understand that this is something I've hidden away, because muda mwingine hata huyu alokuwa naye hawezi akajua kwamba huyu alikuwa amekaa sana on this side of the energy fence, because he's hidden it so beautifully, so well.
Yeah.
Right? So to answer now your question, to get to that that balance, or to get to that conversation, there needs to be that internal work. Wa mwenyewe uanze kuelewa. Another beautiful part, which is tougher, which is how it should be, I would say, when you're in a relationship, I should seek to help you as you seek to help me improve. If it's a serious relationship, if you're even thinking about marriage, then there must be this openness and honesty, and you will be able to also feel that energy, because sometimes we're able to mask things when we're in social settings and etc. But when you're in an intimate relationship, that mask sometimes inakuwa ina relax, and you'll get to see and feel the energy. So pointing it out is a nice way for the other person to start doing that internal work. Lakini kama it's not sio lazima, right? If you feel this is too much work, I do not want to walk that journey with you, it's not that serious, this relationship is not that serious for me, then I mean there's so many ways to end a relationship. You can use different reasoning under the sun.
And you asked ulisema kwa mwanaume, since we're really trying to reach the men here, kwa mwanaume ni jinsi gani hichi kitu anaweza akakielewa kiundani and see how it affects them and how it reflects in their personal lives as well. Nitatoa mfano, marriages, ndoa, couples, most couples, when you meet them, utaona like husband, wife, mwanaume anafanya kazi fulani, they show up to events, they meet their social group and whatnot. But when you look closely, there's always a print in terms of who's more assertive in the relationship. Who takes more of the assertive position, like, hey, muda kuondoka twende, au like business, let's invest in this and this. There's one who takes more of the energetic, the heaviness. There's a certain heaviness in the energy in terms of how they assert themselves and how they communicate certain things. And then there is another one who balances that, where their energy expression might not be as heavy, but they express themselves even more. They have a way of doing things in silence that balances that outward expression.
That what you've just said inaweza ikawa kwa ndoa nyingi sana. What you've just said right now. Kwa sababu I feel like one of the things ambavyo, then again, if you know better, you do better, right? That's the assumption. You know better, you do better. And I think a lot of time watu do not understand that, or hivyo vitu, and then somehow kwa wengine inaweza kuwa chanzo cha ugomvi, in the sense that ukirudi katika context kwamba mimi ni mwanaume, I should be this, I should be this, I should be that. Wakati it's okay kama energy yako iko hivyo, as long as you know the other person has got a certain parts of, like when your relationship yenu, you being a man does not mean you have to be assertive, you have to be, I mean, if it's not you, it's not you, right? If it's not you, it's not you. But kama you need that kind of thing in your life really iende na haitoki kutoka kwako, then it's okay kupata mtu ambaye anaweza kuwa hivyo na akakupeleka. The whole challenge comes inakuja kwenye expectations kwamba as a man, this is how you should be, right?
Yeah, that's
expectation is kwamba as a man, this is how you should be. But realistically speaking, kwa mfano wanakuambia as a man nyumbani ufanye hivi, ufanye hivi, ufanye hivi. Lakini nasema labda mimi mfano wa kizembe, like balbu ikiharibika labda naweza kaka wiki 3 nisijue. Lakini labda mke wangu balbu ikiharibika leo, kesho inakuwa sote. Sinki limeharibika, nasema bwana mimi naweza kaka wiki 3 nisihangaike nao. Lakini labda mke wangu akijua leo, kesho iko fixed. That should make you feel less of a man, because you're not doing that. As long as unajua wewe internally kwamba strength zako nayo ina lie wapi na vitu kama hivyo. So I think expectations sometimes zina push sana wanaume kufanya vitu ambavyo they are not comfortable with just because society inawategemea wao. Na tukija kwenye hii context ya energy ulivyosema kwamba nani anasema tuondoke, nani yuko hivi. For some other people it's not like, come on, how do you let your woman you know how it should be, it shouldn't be. Na hapo ndio conflicts zinaanza kati ya wanaume internally kwamba huyu anasaidia lakini jamii inapaswa mimi niwe hivi, and it's a very big conflict for a lot of men.
Yeah, and yaani unakuta mwingine hata kubeba pochi ya kwa sababu kake kaacha pochi hapa bebe yani atembee nayo na like kwake yeye yani ameshavunja all the laws and the rules of being a man. So it's really na kingine cha muhimu sana ukiangalia kwenye mahusiano. We're talking about balance here and why your energy needs to be centered. Kwa hiyo uwe mwanamke, uwe mwanaume, you have to be able to move through that spectrum. Your physical form ina sheria yake, and it already speaks as to when it comes to performance of the physical body, kama mwanaume na kama mwanamke. Those rules are set. However, within your energy spectrum, when you're in a relationship with your partner, you have to be able to flow within that spectrum from the center. Kwa hiyo there are times where you need to be more in your feminine energy. Now, kwa mfano, people talk a lot about Andrew Tate. Unaona, Andrew Tate when he's being vocal, he's talking about, but what people don't understand is Andrew Tate is in his feminine energy when he's expressing himself. It's that openness. It's the feminine aspect is where the bravado comes from, the courage, that openness. Ndo maana tomboy when you speak of tomboy akiwa aspected in that way kama mwanamke expressing the masculine aspect of herself, there's that openness. Kwa mwanamke, kwa mwanaume, the openness comes from the expression of the feminine, where there is that security within himself. Kwa hiyo anaweza akasema what he needs to say with assertion, but also at the same time when you gauge what he's saying, my only problem when I look at Andrew Tate as an individual himself, even with his expression, there's still an element where he's not fully balanced as well. Even though he's coming from the feminine expression of himself. So kurudi kwenye mahusiano mwanamke na mwanaume kwenye ndoa, kwa mfano utakuta you have the traditionalist man, kwamba wewe kama mwanamke nikisema ufanye hivi, nikisema leo watoto waende wasome shule hii ndo shule hiyo, nikipanga hela ya mwezi ya chakula ndo hii ndo ufanye hivi. And then you have your partner now who's heavy in their masculine energy. Hawezi ukamkandamiza mwanamke who's in touch with the masculine energy.
100%.
Hawezi ukamkandamiza.
100%.
You just,
as men we need to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
The struggle ni kwamba hatukubaliana na hicho kitu.
And this is the thing as well. It's such a tough middle ground to work, is because you shouldn't feel like unagongana na mwanamke who's heavily aspected in a masculine energy. It's that she's not in a balanced space and you're not in a balanced space. Kwa sababu if you're both balanced, whatever you're communicating balances each other on the energy spectrum. Kwa hiyo kama mwanamke, if you're always, yani kwenye ndoa yako, you're always in this masculine energy space and you have a partner, unajua kuna wanaume, like men, there are a lot of men who are not physical, like sio watu wa kupiga mke wake au their partner and they can't express themselves or something is really wrong. Lakini there are other ways they bring this almost even more severe damage. Unaona? Kwa hiyo unakuta a man who's more in his feminine energy, when he is with a partner who's more in their masculine energy, akiwa mwanamke, his expression, kwanza, not just in the relationship, but even on the social level, on kazini, there is a level of how there's a way that person expresses themselves in a more subtle way. They're not assertive. And when the types of energies that are assertive and, kiumeume come into that space, they're usually uncomfortable, kuna wanaume wapo kwenye ndoa and they either hang around men who are not in that macho energy, or they're even more comfortable being around women. Unaona? Kwa unakuta mtu yupo kwenye ndoa na mme wake, and the man is more comfortable hanging around the friends of the wife. Because there's a way women communicate. There's a way women
relate. He relates the energy. On the energy layer.
On the energy level.
Yeah.
And
not relate, like, but you know what I mean.
I understand exactly. Yeah. That's the reason why I brought it up.
Yeah.
And ukiwangalia mwanamke pia, who's more aspected heavily in the masculine, she's comfortable hanging around the male figures, the male friends, the male family group that comes around their social circle, or unaona. And that's because this is happening on an energetic level. And unakuta there are all these conflicts that come from this, yet on that nuclear stage, we haven't taken the time to really look and address.
But so my thinking really is, how do you know what you're like? How do you unafahamu vipi kama energy yako iko vipi na imebalance upande upi zaidi? How do you how do you determine that?
Moja, from the understanding of what the masculine energy feels and looks like, and what the feminine looks like, and that information is, we are speaking about it. It's there. Society speaks about it, because in society, how is a man socialized? We have that information. When they point and say, this is a man, right? Characteristics, behaviors, those traits that they possess. And introspecting, kwamba okay, mimi niko wapi zaidi. And that's why I can say I, as a child, was so much more of a tomboy. Grew up, my friends were just dudes. Like a bunch of my friends were males. Sasa hivi ukubwani ndo I'm like, okay, I need to, make female friends. And I have my close female friends.
How's that coming along?
It's great. But
Now your female friends are like,
Hey, Michael, why are you trying to what are you doing here?
I have my stable group of female friends when I jumped into now my feminine proper, whom again, we came out of the tomboy together into the feminine.
That explains.
Because I have my close friends who we've transitioned together. But being aware, one, of what the, what it entails. What are the traits, what are the characteristics? You are now able to identify that this is a yellow cup, right? Yeah. And then you come back inwards, that introspection. And inward, I'm not saying literally just what's happening inside your internal self, but also looking at yourself. What are your habits? What are your behaviors? Where are you most comfortable? Who are you most comfortable around? Whose energy rubs you off the wrong way? Who are you uncomfortable around? Because for the longest time, like what you're saying right now, if I'm in a family gathering, I would rather sit with the boys and listen to their conversations and chip in than sit with the girls, because I was like, what the hell are we speaking about? Right? I just couldn't relate. So when you're able to now look inward, and then look your inner world, how does it relate to the outside? It gives you information. You get to learn, okay, I'm probably hanging on this side of my spectrum a lot more than the other. When there's, and that's the most important part of doing this work, is when you build that awareness, when you have that information, it's just you, Sasa, how you choose to use it. Yeah? Because then from that space, you can choose, okay, I'm sitting around these people and I'm not feeling very comfortable, but I want to build this type of relationship now and to be able to do this, because it's all skills. right? That's how, through your actions, you can also balance yourself. Because it's not just, this is happening to me, so my energy is driving me. No, you can actually take the wheel once you've had that understanding and say, you know what, I'm on this side naturally, but I want to bring myself here. So tukisema tuiachie to nature, we will go where nature takes us. And nature is a product of so many things that are, again, probably were never in your control. Yeah? Because even if I look at myself, probably a lot of the fact that I was a tomboy was probably not even in my control. It was probably my parents. They're like, you should do soccer and you should do basketball and you should do this and you should do that. And their actions drove me into my masculine energy. Because I'm sure a child, you're a blank slate. Your energy is still trying to then create itself as well from the imprint. That cup starts to now navigate through the world. And it's the people around you. So ukisema niachie tu it to balance itself off, it won't. It will take the shape of what socialized it, nurtured it, where it ended up. So if as a young boy you were told boys don't cry, boys don't, you're not meant to be vulnerable, you're not meant to speak about your feelings, as you're saying, all of that, it's quite brave to be able to say, today I'm feeling this way and to express oneself. It's very much a feminine characteristic, being vulnerable, being open to criticism, being open to being attacked like that is very much a feminine trait. So if as a young boy you're taught this is not meant to be happening, then you are socialized into going into the macho man, macho role, that toxic masculinity that we spoke of. So if you say, okay, this is where I am, I've identified it, but then this is what the hand I've been dealt with, you will not move. You will have that self-awareness, but you will not move.
Do you get clients that are really struggling with this? As into, and I don't know if they have the tools and the ability to actually express it, because I feel like nikisikia now, even I ndio nasema okay, yeah, it makes sense. Na mwenye naseko back kwenye some baadhi ya vitu ambavyo how I've dealt with, I'm like, okay, maybe it's just a mixture of how that energy was and that kind of thing. And as you're speaking now, it's making sense to me, you know what I mean? But nikirudi kwako as a person who sits in a room na kuongea na watu, do you get wanaume ambao they are struggling with this na imewa impact sana kwenye relationship, and do they even know the root cause is probably that energy na how to express it na namna gani when it comes out, how do you deal with that?
So uzuri wa what I do, most of the men that come to therapy at some point have embraced that other side of the spectrum. The man who sits very heavily in the masculine does not go for therapy, because that requires a feminine vulnerability aspect to be able to get there. So it's like a catch-22. And sadly, we cannot come to you and say, I think you need to see me, you need to take that step. And I have a lot of people who come and they're like, I've told my husband to come, and I'm like, okay, but the husband never shows up. Atasema, yes, who shut the wife down, or the girlfriend down, taenda. And then haji. I've had men who've paid for sessions and never showed up. They've paid full amount for 6 sessions, because I usually say, give yourself 6 sessions, see changes. And I get that commitment. I show up. Because for them it's like, okay, they've decided it's nothing. The money is nothing, because that hour they would have spent sitting there with me, they can spend to return that money. So you have it. But the men that actually come through to therapy, one, they've noticed, or they've in a way allowed themselves to move to that end, or they've been in their feminine energy. And then now, as they're trying to balance off and come back into their masculine, or find that balance, and meeting the backlash. Because when you are, and I'll say this, like a lot of my male clients who come, usually there's some relationship issue aspect that led them to therapy. A lot of the times when they're expressing or describing their partners, very much in their masculine energies. So you find, and where it clashes is now when it's not a bad thing, sio kitu kibaya mwanamke kuwa into the masculine energy, lakini in the society we live in, we need to understand, which is work for the human, but we need to understand if we want to coexist in harmony in the society we have created, or our parents and their parents created and we've chosen to continue in. I can be in my masculine energy and my partner can be, as you were saying, in my feminine energy. And I can, okay, now it's time to go, but let me not show everyone that I call the shots and I say, Yashuke, tuende now, muda umeshafika. I can nudge my husband and say, my love, I think it's time to go. And then he will speak up. I give him, I'm still driving because I am in that energy. My partner isn't. But I give him the opportunity to still show up in the society we exist in as a man that he is. And how does that come about? When the woman actually accepts that I'm not the man, I'm just sitting in my masculine energy, he's the man in the feminine energy, but right now I am more in this energy, but he still is the man.
It's so much
in the society we live in.
Like you need to be yourself for a level, like your level of self-awareness has to be on.
Yeah.
Hey, gosh.
But
that's how you make it work. Right? Kwa sababu tukisema tubadilishe society, tumbadilishe Michael, umbadilishe Nadia, umbadilishe Yashuke, umbadilishe sijui nani mwingine in our social circle, hiyo ni kazi kubwa zaidi kuliko kujifanyia kazi nyewe wawili. You know? It's like I sit and I do my work, you sit and you do your work. Hopefully Michael does his work as well. But in this social context, if we are doing our work, we don't have to create trouble and problems and distress for ourselves because we are containing us.
There's a very weird example which clearly explains this thing. I was talking to my people. It was a family gathering to Mekada. It was me, my brother, our wives, you know, the brother-in-laws. Like, it was a family gathering, you know. We were drinking to Nongen, and then if my wife may find Jackie. So if Jackie comes to me, I can say, Michael, I think you're drunk. We cannot drive back home. So let me drive. Akinifata pembeni. Anachukua fungo namba. Lakini sasa kama tunakuja wakataka sema umeelewa uweze kuendesha gari kama there's no way I'm giving you the key.
Yeah.
But then wakati nasema everybody laughed and everybody agreed like yeah, ukinipata pembeni different. Fungo na toa. Lakini tunakaa mbele watu wanaweza kuniambia why are you doing that? So now I just speak, I'm like, that explains it. For me it was like, come on, you cannot do this in front of people.
Yeah.
No, you don't. And now I gotta prove kwamba I've got this. Lakini ukinipata pembeni nitatoa mwenye ufunguo utakwambia take it.
Yeah. Because in that moment, she's forcing you to mask your feminine. Yeah. Right? Because now you're exposing me, and now I have to prove, because my avatar is a man, and you cannot then, expose me that I'm in this feminine. But, kama unavyosema, akija privately, because she is your person.
Yeah.
You are exposed to her, and she is exposed to you, but you're not exposed to me. Yeah. You don't want me to know your internal world.
Yeah.
I'm not privy to that. I don't have that privilege. Sasa yeye akija akakuexpose, hapo sasa ndo matatizo as you're saying yanapotokea, because she will feel disrespected because she's in her masculine energy. Itamkera, and there will be pain for your reaction. And because you're in your feminine energy, there will be suffering for you ukifika nyumbani. Because obviously atakuzidi. If it's maneno, if it's words, if it's what. Right?
Yeah.
But in that moment, in that social setting, you needed to wear that mask so that at least you're dealing only with one person once you get home, rather than now having to deal with the 5 or 10 people that you were sitting with.
Yeah.
You know, the irony of the conversation we're having, that as you guys were talking, is nilikuwa nafikiria kwamba the men are the ones who are having to deal with toxic masculinity, and the women are the ones having to deal with toxic femininity.
Yeah,
you know,
completely off balance. The world we're in.
My God. But the only thing with that is that we speak more about toxic masculinity. Nadhani kwa sababu impact yake is more physical.
But this is
also kwa sababu, because a lot of the women are in their masculine, they're in their toxic masculinity, and the men in their femininity are needing to mask. So when you mask, the mask is an extreme, hey? Yeah. The mask is not the balance. And that is why a lot of people are speaking about toxic masculinity in men, because they're seeing the mask the men choose to wear in social settings where they're being provoked by their partners or by the people around them. You know? So, kwa sababu toxic masculinity, ukisikiliza how people speak about it, wakupe hizo examples, you would clearly tell that this is a mask. That this is a mask that the man had to wear at that point. Or, and again, not to take away responsibility from our actions, but what leads today a man to want to prove to his woman that I am the man of this house? Why do you even need to prove that? Unless you are being provoked to prove your standing. And who are you proving it for? Nda mwingi vitu vikibaki baina ya nyewe wawili mnaviresolve kwa sababu mnaelewana. You can be vulnerable to me, I can be vulnerable to you. Najua wewe Nadia ndo you earn more, so whatever, right? And we balance that out. But the minute now she goes and tells the people, she's already robbing you of your avatar. And that is where one feels, I need to prove that I am the man. And how do you do it in an immature mask?
So I'm thinking of it in terms of, this is very complex. Super complicated. Kwa sababu, nikirudi kwenye mfano ambao umesema hapa, I think, by the way, I agree with you. Kwamba a lot of times issues zikitekea na zikibaki between you two, inaweza zikawa really bad. Like in somewhere people always find a way to make it work. You know, whether it's conversations, whether to go accountable, you know, inakuwa hivyo. And I feel like sometimes watu wanaenda kutafuta support nje. Maybe moja inakuwa na nia nzuri kwamba tuje hapa tuongee, lakini most part moja anakuwa anaona kama anakuwa exposed. Come on, sasa tumefika huku na nini. And then sijui kama ile kama your approach ni valid. I mean, some deal solutions zinapatikana, you know, na vitu kama hivyo. Lakini I feel like sometimes it leaves a little bit of a dent kwa mtu kama come on, mpaka tumefika huku. You know, I feel sometimes probably either as a man or even as a woman will come on, haitaka kufika huku. So on one hand, mtu anaona kama labda ni njia ya kutafuta solution, but on the other hand, it comes with the price. You know, how a person feels after that. So how do we?
The thing is,
there's so much to unpack.
Using the word unpack, to do that work, that each and every one of us, you and your partner, there's unpacking to do. And you have to get to that point where you understand and you accept that. And it's a type of unpacking that is not like 3 years, 5 years down the line. You're talking about like unarudi nyuma, ni sema hata kwa kuangalia kwa nyuma auioni yani. So you're going really far back before you were ever a thought to your partner. Ana kabla hata hajajua kama ndakuja nikutane na mtu anaitwa Michael. Like that's the unpacking that somebody has to do to be able to get to that place where that energy is at its center and is balanced and is able to, you know, there are these terms of gender fluid nowadays and things like that. Gender is not fluid. What's fluid is your energy spectrum. That's where the the waveforms of your expression within that then comes into the physical body. That's where everything really starts and where it exists. So it's your energy. That's where you should be fluid. That's where you should have that ease of movement depending on what action is needed on the outside or is demanded, whether it's from your partner, whether it's how you want to express yourself about something. However, the physical form itself, it has its own position in terms of this issue that we're talking about.
And ukiangalia like wazee wetu like back then, a lot of, I think, and here the challenge for us is like moving back so that we can move forward. Is back then they focused on one aspect. They focused on, okay, you're the man, I'm the woman, and then regardless of the energy fields we're in, we're just gonna act according to our physical role. That's a lot of what they did, which helped them to an extent, right? But with us, there's a lot more. It's not only about our physical form anymore. Tulipokuwa sasa hivi, it's the physical form, it's the energetic form, and that's why we have the whole spectrum of how we express ourselves compared to back then. they simplified things for themselves. I'm not saying that it was great, that it worked, that it's ideal, but it worked for them. Yeah? Sasa for us today, the issues are coming about. Sio kwamba back then kulikuwa hamna hizi changamoto, watu hawagombani mule in their relationships, ndoa zinaniliu. Lakini today there's a lot more. Rates of divorce are higher, rates of niniliu, people who are not getting married, whatever, is higher. You're like, what the world is, whatever is happening. No, it's not the world, nothing's happening. The world is not ending. It's just that today, our expressions are very different. We've actually not chosen a template to which governs how we navigate through the world. Whereas back then, they chose, okay, because you're a man, you're sex, female, male, we're going to act according to the physical body, and dini zetu zote identify hivyo. You know?
Kuna clarity vizuri sana kwenye dini.
Exactly.
And it's clear.
They've simplified it, kwa sababu that's the most simplest way. Kwamba, okay, physically you're a man, but your behaviors are like this.
This is what you expected of you.
Exactly.
This is what you do. Yeah.
Whereas today, it's very different. Why? Because we have thrown out that template. We don't want it. It was not a great template anyway. It worked for them for their time, great, but it's a shitty template.
But the thing is, I don't think it's not like we've thrown it. Okay, tunaamini kwamba tunaifuata. That is what, at least that tunahisi kwamba tunafuata the template, but realistically hatuishi hivyo tena, no?
Exactly.
So tuko kwenye denial, like hatujui tuko wapi.
And that is worse. When we're in denial, it is worse. Rather, we become self-aware that we have thrown out the template. Let's create one. Tukubaliane, tutengeneze. As a sisi, we're in denial. Kwamba tunafuata template hii. Lakini, when you're in denial, it's like you're in the dark. Like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm just feeling my way through. Anyway, I'm going. Nikijikwa, bump my pinky on the table, itaniuma, and then but I continue in my darkness. That is where we are. Na sasa hizi, all the issues that are coming up, ndio yo umejigonga kwenye kona na niliu on your pinky toe, and it hurts it hurts. Or you've slammed into the wall because what? We're navigating through the dark because of that denial that we choose to be in.
Na kingine as well that I feel, unajua hapo naposema tumefika, yani tumefika sehemu sio wale ambao ni wahenga. You know that tukisema the old, like that's the old. 100 years ago is old. 10,000 years ago is old. A millennia ago is old. So there is, where we are now is we are at a point where our DNA has accumulated all the information across generations and life cycles about the family systems, the relation structures, and now we are at this point where we have to use that information to create and to build that balanced, stable position of how we express all these things. But the information and the knowledge now it's there. It's within our data bank as humanity, as spirits and souls. It's there. So now we have to unpack, to use the word you had, across generations. When it comes, for example, ukiongelea the generation, say mababu zetu au mababu wa mababu zetu, there were, for their time, there were things that worked greatly, but at the same time there were things that yani ulikuwa ni unyama. You know, like it was human rights, sijui mambo gani, sijui haki, sijui ya nani. That's just, it was, you know, people are living really difficult times within the peace of their souls at that time. So leo kinachoendelea sasa hivi, when you look at things like divorce, sijui nini, it's just that they're more tools to escape.
Yes.
As you evolve, tools are created, right? Nah, squeeze out. You don't need to walk 10 kilometers just to tell somebody mtoto wako anafunga ndoa. You just send them a message on your phone, you know? But that's really what's happening. There's this data bank of all these ideas of how we should live, who we are, and these expressions up to where we come to this point. And the thing is, when you look at when you read back with some of the philosophers and a lot of the books and the writings, when they talk about the earliest civilizations, like in Sumeria and what they call Atlantis, this is like the peak of society. Kwa sababu kama mimi na wewe leo tuko hapa and we're supposed to be the progressive generation, mbona we can't replicate the pyramid? That means kuna kipindi, kuna sehemu watu walifika mbali zaidi ya hapa, and that structure fell. And then it started being built up again. So we are really in the rebuilding process of something that fell at some point. But now in this rebuilding process, we are getting to learn more about the things we did wrong, the things we should improve on. And ndo ujenzi sasa wa kile chenyewe inabidi kifanyike. And that's why we find ourselves in spaces like this now, where at that time, if a conversation like this needed to be had, it was being had in some hut somewhere. There were no microphones. There was no network to spread this information, to awaken people to, you know? Yeah. So, I feel ni muhimu sana to look at what we're doing and this dialogue that we're having and this understanding of things like our energy spectrum and why it's important and why in terms of being in a space of rebuilding and to look at it that way, kwamba this is the generation that's been given the responsibility of creating and building that structure that will be stable. Yani hapa, this is the balancing act, and this is why this is known as the Aquarian age, the age of information. The age, we're supposed to be entering the golden age.
Yeah,
now.
the only challenge with that is there's just too much information, so we don't know which one to pick.
Overall, by choice.
Like right now, I'm mad that I had this understanding about. I feel personally, it gives up covered a lot of things for me, even how you relate with people at work, people at home, your friendship, parent. You know, if you have this understanding, then for you can always understand, like, okay, this is the energy that we're getting now. This person is leaning more to this side. It's okay, Michael. You have this understanding. Take a step back, or nenda mbele, take a step forward. You know what I mean?
But here's the thing as well. This is kimekukuta kwa muda wake.
I agree though. Yeah. I agree.
Kwa sababu there is a 70-year-old somewhere, maybe he's listening to this with his son or his grandkid, and he's going back on his, maybe he's not married anymore, or he didn't have this.
I agree.
Na kwa mara ya kwanza anaisikia hapa tunavyoongea, and he's reflecting on certain things.
And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah. Na ndo hicho, yani kwamba cha muhimu ni kwa hapa tulipofika, to be able to really get to that place where now our children, kwa sababu sasa ndo tunawatengenezea mazingira sasa ambayo yatawalinda.
Mimi na Nadia wewe useme kwamba this generation inawezekana temesha kwenda sometimes, tunaweza tusibadilike kwenye baadhi ya vitu, lakini there's room ya kuja kuwasaidia wanaokuja with mentorship and this kind of conversations, because sio conversation ambayo inatokea sana, especially kwa sisi ambao tumekulia hapa. You know, and one of the things we started the podcast is purely on that. We feel like there's so much information ambayo inaenda huko ndani, na kwa watoto wa kiume sometimes tunatapatapa. Wakati tunatoa mfano mmoja kwamba growing up and kuona mama zetu, like maybe I want to have a wife ambaye atakuwa kama mamangu, right? But you're not really like your father. You know, and probably for some of us, labda kwa wanaume labda walio wengi unakuta labda mama alikuwa tu housewife, most yuko nyumbani, walikuwa na kazi zake za kawaida, mambo yanaenda na vitu kama hivyo. And now umekuwa you end up marrying Nadia who has his own practice. She's running on practice. You don't expect her to behave like your mom. You know, so there's a lot of
this is where I want to interject. Sorry, Michael, kwa sababu kuna kitu umesema hapo kwamba we're not like our fathers. But in truth, kwa hiki tunachokiongelea, ni kwamba we are not like, most of us are not like the versions our fathers chose to express.
That's
Unaona?
probably they masked a lot of things too.
Yeah. So probably.
They did.
They definitely did. And this is why this work is very important kwa wanaume in this generation and in the coming generations. The things we leave unspoken, that we choose to carry within ourselves. And this all, it goes way back. And this is why I felt it was important to really talk about energy and how it impacts our expression, because from that expression is yani ukweli wa kila kitu, yani unajulikana na unaonekana na mtoto atanaweza akajifunza, unaona. Kwa hiyo if you're a man who struggles expressing that authentic part of yourself, then by large hata kwenye njia unazo za malezi yani kuna mbegu nayo ipanda ndani ya wanao, where they have to, you know, leo I wasn't always somebody who could express myself openly or share my opinions or really be vulnerable with maybe some of the things I've gone through, but when I look at within my family and I look at what that has done with the men in my family, then that was the beginning for me being like, no, I have to find a way to get past this, because it impacts so many parts of our family dynamic and by large our society dynamic. And as men, we need men who can express themselves authentically, be in their power, and I'm not talking about a physical power in terms of bondage or like somebody who's just violent. No, I'm talking about the security within yourself. And if you're not on an energetic level balanced and have security with how you express that part of yourself, then many things that come outside your physical form will be filtered and masked with a lot of things that are not true to yourself.
Good conversation we've had today. Good conversation. I've had a lot of aha moments. Like a lot of aha moments, and this is why I love doing this, because it's very therapeutic for me. Simlipi Nadia. Yani sitaji kumlipa Nadia ukaa kwenye session na kuzungumza. So just as we are winding down, I want to ask this. How do we get to the point now of us kuweza kuexpress vitu vizuri? Now, especially now we have this dynamic, sometimes quite very clear, but so how do we get to the point ya kwanza kuexpress vitu vizuri? Or it just means we kama mwanaume ambao kwa mwanaume, lakini wewe ambao unaisikiliza kuanza kujifikiria na kuona kwamba at what point energy moja imezidi nyingine, na kuanza kumwangalia mwenzako pia, and then maybe find a way, like how do we move past this for now?
Move past the energies.
We cannot like, how do we move past just understanding and start to express?
The next step.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I should have said that.
Yes, Michael. So after gaining that awareness, once nishajitambua, right? Nimeshajua this is where I am, where my energies lie. And perhaps if in a relationship, kujua huyu mwenzangu, this is where they lie. So, one, I would say there is no, as Yashuke said, it's a spectrum for a reason, that we flow in and out, just like our emotions. Our emotions are on a spectrum, and we're able to express these emotions, flowing from the more positive emotions to the negative emotions to the neutral emotions, which is in the middle, right? Same with our masculine, feminine energy, as we're flowing in and out. That's actually healthy. Mindasema, if you're able to kind of move based on what your surrounding is requiring of you, ni muhimu. So instead of just saying, I'll be fixated here in the middle, no, to look at where are we and what does my environment right now call of me. Because that is then the progression. Man, once you have that knowledge and you have that, when you've started to exercise the muscle of being able to move within your energy field based on the environment that you're needing, that is the next step. starting to exercise. It's like going to the gym. And you can start with, if you're in a relationship, start within your relationship. Because, mind you, once you know and you have an understanding of your energy, what it means, where it is falling within the spectrum, then it becomes easier for you to read where the other person is on their spectrum. You might not have 100% of that information, but you have a very good idea of where they sit. Starting to have these open conversations. Because yes, our energies communicate, but then because we are logical beings, a lot of the things today are requiring us to kind of have intellectual or logical conversations. And how do we do that? Our conscious mind uses language a lot. It's the tool that we have. So our unconscious mind, where our energy sits, it communicates energetically. The feelings, the vibes, right? The gut feeling you get. It's an unconscious. Yeah. Once you've raised that awareness, now you're aware of what your gut is telling you, what it means, what that energy is speaking. Then the mode in which then you interact or communicate with another person on an intellectual, on a conscious level, is through language. Language is the means that we use. So even in therapy, I can read when someone comes sit in my office, I know exactly that they're sitting with some form of heaviness. I've read their energy, but I need to understand what is that heaviness, what is behind it. And I cannot access that intellectually in any other way but through language. And a lot of the work that I do is to teach people how to express verbally their energy. That's what a lot of us don't have. So we have the energy, we have the spectrum of emotions, but because of the world we live in, we have been pulled so far away from that connection from ourselves that we're unable to make sense of it. It's still happening, but we don't know what is this saying, right? So a lot of the work becomes teaching, okay, how do we make sense of this energy? What does it mean for you? And how do I then express it? So those are the next steps. Once you're then aware now of those energies, of what's happening within you, of where you are on your energy spectrum, yeah, then looking for the right words, because again, you will know. What I do with my clients, I say, it seems like you sound quite frustrated right now. And they will correct me. Again, they're not frustrated. So that was I picked their energy and I felt frustration. I check. You seem quite frustrated. I'm like, no, I'm not frustrated. I'm just quite confused right now. Because sometimes the energies, they kind of like, you know?
Yeah.
They fall within the same wavelengths and you're unable to exactly tell. So once you're able to sit with your feelings and you sit with your energies and you know what it means, then using those words, and again, before you share them or express them, see, is this ringing true to what I am, where I am, what is going on for me? And having those conversations. We cannot bypass or avoid, for whatever reason, we as a human species have decided to make language our mode with which we communicate with one another. And nowadays, thankfully, we're also going back to these non-verbal ways that we express, where a lot of us are learning what does it mean when someone's facial expressions change and they look like this and look a certain way. But at the end of the day, because we're using both, there needs to be a balance of both. And that's where the checking, okay, you seem this way, you seem quite annoyed, and they can correct you, and that is okay. And you should be open to being corrected. Because mtu mwingine akishaona, Yashuke, you seem quite angry right now. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm just very thoughtful right now. What you just said doesn't make sense to me. I'm trying to do the math in my brain. Don't ngangania kwamba naona umeninunia, umenikasirikia. Right? Be open.
Because then you're making it about you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the next steps after that awareness is test your reality with yourself. Am I reading my energy correct? Are the intellectual, these words, and I say intellectual because it requires the logical brain, which our closest relatives, animals, don't have. They just speak energetically. That's it. And they've also developed the different sounds and all of this. They're non-verbals. But for us, we have the words. That's the other way that we get to communicate with one another to make sure that we're being understood. first, before you take it to the other person and speak to the other person, are these words reflecting what's going on for me? And you can say them out loud, hear it, or say it in your head and see, does it really ring true? And also check, if you're going to speak about someone else's energy, be open to being corrected. Express what it means for you, because as we said mapema, kwa muda mwingine, how I read your energy is more a reflection of my energy levels or where my energy lies. If I read tension and anger, perhaps I'm coming with a bit of, I'm coming from that space, or I have that within me, right? And that's what I'm identifying. Or maybe that's the energy, or that's the frequency that I'm most, what's the word? Most comfortable in. So I pick your frequency very easily, right? So being open to being corrected. Once you read someone's energy, you can express that, right? And our uzuri wa relationships, we believe that this person I trust, that I can be vulnerable with. I mean, if you're in a relationship, you are afraid to be vulnerable, get out.
Get out.
Like, leave.
Yeah.
Like, that is not a place to be. Right? You're meant to be able to just put down your guards when you're in a relationship, because you know that this person's not going to harm me. I'm safe. Because the only time we can be vulnerable is when we feel safe. And in order for us to exercise even that vulnerability muscle, we need to find even one person that we are able to feel safe with. Ambayo tarudi for our men wengi hata mama zao are not a safe space, because nikienda kwa mama yangu na emotions ataniambia watoto wa kiume hawali. And this is the person that I relied on for my survival, right? Because you relied on your mother for feeding, and that is survival. Anakulisha, anakuvisha, make sure that you're well. So as you're growing and you're starting to now have the ability to express in a different way, because your story ya watoto wa kiume wali haianzi when you're like 0 through 3. It starts from 3 going upwards, where you're now building your identity. You're building now these, where the masks are being built. Yeah, so imagine kama mtu hata mama yake mwenyewe ambaye was the one to ensure their survival was not a safe space. Kazi ipo.
Yeah, Yashuke.
Yes. So what she just talked about led me to thinking and expressing this part of the dialogue that I had in mind before. And tulipoingia, it kind of took a back seat. But I talked about energy in terms of performance, which is a big part of what we've covered and communicated. And then in this latter part, she was expressing something that I feel leans more on the security aspect when it comes to energy. Sasa, there's a reason why they call this the concrete jungle. There's the savannah jungle, or the jungle that we know yenye wanyama huko, lakini inabidi kutambua pia kwamba humu ndani tulimo humu sisi ni wanyama pia. Tofauti ni kwamba unyama wetu we do it on podcasts, we do it on the street, we do it on social media, but at the core of it, we have the very expressions kama wanyama wa mbugani, kwa sababu na sisi pia ni wanyama. So the reason I say that is when you're in the jungle, in the wilds, you're either predator or prey.
Yeah.
And ukiingia kwenye ubinadamu, the human experience, and on an energetic level, and how you move in this world and how you communicate, there is that aspect as well. Kwamba either I'm sure you've heard of expressions like energy vampire, or so either you're either somebody who siphons others' energy or you're a victim to that action. But so rarely are there people who have that secure center where you cannot use your position energetically to weaken how I feel about myself, how I express myself, or what I think of myself. And this is done on an energetic level, and this is what when you're talking about earlier about bad energy. or this dark energy now that comes into play. This vampire predator aspect. There are people who literally move through this world, eating up other and siphoning energy from those that they pick out and see that, hey, and this all happening in science. Kuna unyonge flani in your security and your energy spectrum, anaiona na anaiingilia and takes from you, from the part of yourself that you've not tapped into. So hicho ni kitu cha muhimu sana kukielewa, na hata kwenye mahusiano there is some, and this is where some really toxic behavior comes into play, and you find na hii sio kwamba kuna wanaume wanapitia ugumu sana kwa sababu they have a partner, a female partner who's more predatory with her assertion of her energy. Kwamba ni mtu, and this is a thing as well, our women, kwa wale ambao they're not centered, when it comes to the power of the tongue, unaona. Kwa hiyo ukiwa mwanaume ambaye physically you're not a physical person, you might have vitu about yourself that are not pleasant, but you're not violent in that way. However, you have a partner who is energetically ametuna in expression, kitumia ulimi wake ni kukuingilia in your energy space and siphon that and make you, it's almost like you're going into a fetal position.
Yeah.
You shrink.
You see? Now, if you go through that for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years of marriage, what's left? What's left? And what are you able to give back as well, if that's the space you're operating from? So, ni muhimu sana, because a lot of the toxic behaviors, it happens on a dominant and non-dominant level within the energy space. Yani kuna unyama unaendelea on that level. And people need to be able to, and mimi naambia kwa wanaume wengi, if you see that type of behavior very early on, because kwanza, for most women who have developed that, most of them have developed that type of condition as a defensive mechanism. You see? Kwa hiyo unakuta physically she's not going to go at it with you, but she goes at with you in that way. And unakuta mwingine labda she grew up seeing her mother being physically abused, alikuwa anamwona hana jinsi ya kujitetea, unaona, in that way, and she, on a subconscious level, made the decision like, I don't want that to happen to me. So any male who comes into her life after that point, she has to take a superior position on an energetic level so that she can protect her space. But ye mwenye anakuwa atambui kwamba there's a lot of damage being created, and rather doing the healing work and separating herself from that trauma, anaingia into that. Na ndoa nyingi sana they've been affected by this thing, because unakuta it's something, it becomes very difficult, and this is why our last conversation, for anyone who's listening to this, they should, if you haven't listened to the last podcast, definitely listen to the last episode.
Proper plug, my guy. Plug in your last episode.
So it ties well into understanding the roots as to how these things build up, and for a lot of women, to men. When it comes to the work that we need to do, I feel like for the most part, what we're doing wrong is heavily spotlighted, you know? But I feel kwamba kuna vitu ambavyo vinafanyika with the women in our lives a more nuclear level that havijaangaliwa kwa ukaribu. And women need to look at those things and address them within themselves and be able to realize how these patterns have been created. Lakini that aspect in Yosema of energetically this vampire-like persona and the victim of so you find yani yeye mtu kwenye masuala lakini muda wote anapambana yani how much is taken yani you know he's fighting to keep it becomes that type of tussle and what then goes on to happen ni kwamba na mimi sasa inabidi kuonyesha unyama wangu unaona like I'm gonna show you, because and the thing is as well, the reason this becomes so toxic is happening on like multiple mental levels. You know, it's happening on. It's really it can get to the freaking sociopath level. You know, the layers of how people play with energy and in that silence. Kwa hiyo ni muhimu sana to address this and to be able to get to a place where you recognize it. Now ukitambua mapema, really attack it. And if you don't, and this comes from the dating level, kama umeshafunga ndoa, you're upo kwenye relationship, as soon as you identify something like this, you have to make a choice. You really have to make a choice, and it's a serious choice. Kwa sababu when it's all said and done, yani kitakachobaki, it will be a shell of yourself. You know, so
that was quite a summary. So we've had 2 back-to-back episodes with Yashuke. So sorry. So we've had 2 back-to-back episodes with Yashuke, and I think they are all gold, like proper madini. So I hope watu mnasikiliza, and then of course we can always have this conversation, but the essence of it, or the essence of this podcast, is really to amplify this kind of conversation, you know, because zinatusaidia sana hata sisi wenyewe pia, na vile I hope watu wanaweza kupata muda kuintrospect na kuangalia kwamba okay, where ya kwangu inaishiwa, how do I navigate through this, like what you've just said. Guys, seek help. Nadia is here. Go to therapy. Sometimes tunaweza jiona tuko poa, tunadeal na vitu ambavyo hatujui vinatokea wapi. You don't know how you're feeling, na vitu kama it all ties in kwa mambo kama haya. So kama unaona kuna kitu umesikizwa ndani na unahisi kwamba unahitaji msaada zaidi, look for Nadia. Pay her, and then she'll do an amazing job in terms of trying to help you to get to the root cause of the issues. Na maybe ku navigate, like how do you move forward from that, you know. Sessions ipo, sio muone Nadia tu, hapo pia wengine huko, na kama unahitaji kuwa na conversations na watu, I don't know, do what you gotta do.
Just start, you know, finding the people you feel safe around. People ambao unaona kama wengine wetu tunasikiliza the podcast, I think to an extent we're open to learning. Mtu yote ambaye I believe anasikiliza hizi podcast zetu, like all the episodes, and akarudi kusikiliza, ni mtu ambaye is open to learn, because we're all about unpacking, unlearning, learning, right, from one another experiences. Build that community ambayo sio lazima ufike uanze with a therapist or with a professional. No, that's I would say an extreme. But you can start with the people that surround you, you know. And it can be as simple as, let's discuss this podcast. Unaweza hata mkatusema.
It's okay.
As long as it starts your conversation. You know? So use whatever channel to get to the open dialogue. Kwa sababu muda mwingi tukiwa tunaanza kuongea, pia inazidi kutufungua akili zetu towards what is actually happening. Inatuongezea ule uelewa wa our internal world, our energy world. And then ukiona unahitaji sasa more support, then look for people. And there's so many people that are out there that can help. We're out here that we can help.
So Yashuke, for people who wamesikiliza leo, they didn't get a chance to listen to the previous episode, how do they reach out to you? Either to further this conversation or just to tap into what you do?
they can reach me on my newly opened Instagram page. Yashuke Masura. You can also reach me on my email, yskshowcase@gmail.com. That's yskshowkcase@gmail.com. And I take free consultations. You can reach out to me for speaking opportunities. You can I'm open. I'm open to hear from you guys. I'm open to learn as well. Because kila mtu anayekuja kwako na cha kwake anakuja na kipya. You know, so I'm a very open person. I'm ready to help. So if you're going through something and you want somebody to reach out to or you can consult with, those are my details. And this was fun, guys.
Yeah, this was dope. So @MindMattersTZ on Instagram, @MindMattersTZ on Twitter, link kwenye bio, moja kwa moja utaenda kwenye website. That's how unaweza ku get in touch na Nadia. @MadeThePodcast on Twitter, @MadeThePodcast on Instagram. Hapo unaweza kutupata sisi na ukatuambia chochote ambacho unataka kutuambia. Again, like we always say, we've enjoyed making this episode, so you listen and you tell us what you think. You don't have to agree with us. It's cool. It's cool. It's opinions. Kwa hiyo you share yours as well, and then na kama kuna issue nyingine ambazo nataka tuzizungumzie na unaona one way or the other, bado tujaziguza vizuri, bado we still have a lot of other issues za kuzungumza. So utupate. Mimi naitwa Michael Baruchi. This was fun. Yashuke Nadia, as always, tuna appreciate sana. Till next time,
Peace.
Ciao.
Yeah, Michael.
Live. You're listening to Live with Men, the podcast.